let's see now. Where can we actually use this in a document? Well, I'm going to pan back over to my phantom bots here, and my appearance palette can go back over on the right. I am going to keep my transparency palette handy here. And I'm going to go and open up my symbol palette. If you don't have your symbols palette open on your screen, which I don't, then you'll have to head up to your window menu and all the way down to symbols. And what I've done inside your symbols palette is created a little gear symbol for you. So you could take this little symbol, and I'm actually going to drag and drop them onto my artwork here. There we are. In fact, I want more than one of these. I want a whole pile of them. Lots and lots of these little guys here. I could grab my symbol sprayer if I wanted to and sort of arrange these and spray these around my artwork, but I'm just going to do this quickly here. Maybe I want something like this. Whoop. Grabbed my robot head there by accident. There we are, something like that. And I'm going to overlap them just a little bit here, maybe something like this. And maybe I want a few more over on the other side of my artwork as well. I'm just holding down Alt, by the way, or Option on the Mac to duplicate these out. And I'm holding down Shift as I'm dragging here to scale the objects here, my little gyros, scale them proportionately here. So maybe I want something like this. And again, I just want to make sure that everything's overlapping just a little bit. So I have something like this happening. Looks kind of neat. And I'm going to take each of my gyros here, each of my gear wheels, and apply individual transparency to them. Now there's a couple of different ways to do this. I'll pull my transparency palette over onto my artwork so you can see what's going to happen here. I can grab one of my gear wheels here and then begin to apply opacity directly in the transparency palette like you've seen so far. I'll try 50% here. And I could come along and achieve the same result. Maybe I'll use 75 for this one. Sometimes it's fun to kind of mix up your transparencies and you'll get some different results here. Maybe I'll drop this one down to 15 so he's a very ghostly type effect there. And so on and so on. Now you can continue with your gyro wheels here if you want. I can take each of them here as well and also change my blending modes if I want some kind of an overlay effect here for each of them. So once again, I totally encourage you to experiment with your different blending modes and your opacities here. And this little guy here, he practically disappeared because he's so light. He's only 15%. So maybe what I'll do is I'll crank him back up. The other cool thing is that you can start to mix opacity and blending modes. So I'm getting this neat kind of overlapping effect here. I'll zoom in there just a little bit so you can see that there. Something like this. And I can begin not only using, for example, screen, but also screen at 50%, screen at 25%, something like that. So you can really start to mix and match some of your different shapes to achieve different results. Zoom back out a little bit here. So if you want, you can use your transparency palette. That's no problem at all to finish off your gear wheels. But there's another way to do this as well. I'm going to move over to the right side of my artwork where I have this other group of gear wheels. And what I could do is, using Illustrator's control bar up at the top, I've got an opacity slider right there. So I can begin dropping down my opacities on these different gear wheels directly from the control bar, which is nice because oftentimes your transparency palette is buried way over on the right and it's gone. It's buried underneath some other palettes. So it's nice that you can go up to your control bar and adjust the opacities of your different objects. And where I see this little opacity guy, I can click on there and, oh, it's another transparency palette. Well, sort of. He's just kind of docked up there towards the top. If I highlight a shape here, and he's sort of locked up here. So I can come in here, adjust my different blending modes if I want, click back on opacity, try some different options here. Wherever you see this blue underlined text here, you're going to get these extra little palettes or duplicate palettes showing up on your control bar. So keep them in mind. So there you go. There is a little bit of working with opacity and blending modes on some different objects here. Now, I have to be honest, I'm not really happy with my gear wheels here. I was really just showing you some neat things that you could do. But you know what? I'm going to grab all of these guys and get rid of them. I don't like them. They're not really adding much to my artwork here. It was more an example for you, the faithful viewer. All right. Now, I want to take my robot heads here. There's one final thing that I want to do here. My robot heads, these guys are obviously supposed to be phantom bots here, phantom robots. And do you remember from a previous lesson we talked about creating compound paths? Well, I've already knocked the holes in all of these robots here, except the center guy. He didn't have any center objects that needed to be knocked out. But I'm going to grab all three of them here, all in one shot knock down the opacity of all of them because they're supposed to be phantom robots or ghost robots. So shift click on all of them there, and then up on your control bar you will find an opacity slider there, and go ahead and fiddle around with your opacities until you find a result that looks good for the artwork there. Maybe something like that. That looks pretty good. Okay, things are looking good. As far as all the other artwork that we have kicking around in our file, we can get rid of it, just marquee around it and delete it. We don't need it anymore.